Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, fellow colleagues. Welcome to our CLC lecture series, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Agnes, and I'll be your session MC for today. The CLC lecture series is one of the platforms through which urban thought leaders share best practices and exchange ideas and experiences. We are delighted to have with us today two returning speakers for the lecture. Our first speaker, Dr. Inhee Kim, is a senior researcher at the Seoul Institute, which is a research think tank of the Seoul Metropolitan Government that conducts research to provide policy solutions to address urban challenges in Seoul. Dr. Inhee is currently leading the Seoul Next 100 Years Vision and Spatial Planning Strategy Research Project. Our second speaker, Dr. Sergi Sauri, is the director of the Center for Transport Innovation, CENIT, which is a Barcelona-based mobility and logistic research institute and think tank under the International Center for Numerical Methods in Engineering. Today's lecture is titled Barcelona Superblocks and 50 Microseoul, Pioneering Hyperlocal Models for Urban Livability, and will cover insights from Seoul and Barcelona's new urban model concepts that look at creating self-sufficient and walkable communities with positive outcomes on urban livability. Through these case studies, we aim to gain insights on the innovative planning approaches, as well as challenges encountered in implementing these models to shape a more livable city of the future. So without further ado, I would now like to invite Dr. Inhee Kim onto the stage to kick off his sharing on 50 microsouls. Dr. Kim, please.
Good afternoon. 5 years ago, I think I had a first lecture about 2030 Seoul master plan, which was made by citizen participatory plan. And last year, 2040 Seoul master plan is an updated version of 2030. And today, my third lecture in Singapore. It is really great honor, and I really sincerely appreciate Singapore CLC giving me a chance to share our research project. Yeah, and let's start it. And 100-year plan. Last year, 2030 and 2040 and 2050, and now 100-year plan. Why we studied 100-year plan? There are three backgrounds. The first one, the social interest raised in the future, of course, in the future and the past and at the time. But after the pandemic, the pessimistic projection crisis because of the pandemic, because of the climate crisis, and because of the demographic changes. That's why we have a pessimistic future and unpredictable future, and we should prepare for this unpredictable future. And that is the first reason of a 100-year plan. And second one, Seoul. In the last 100 years, we achieved economic growth and physical improvement, and we became one of the global cities. But according to some indicators, since 2019, the suicide rate is #1 in the world. And this year, the Global Happiness Index, 52nd. Yeah, we are global cities, improvement and economic, we have achievement, but the people are not happy. And the question is, how can we make citizens happier, and how can we provide a space which the citizens feel better and quality of life? That is the second task. And third one, globalization and hyper-personalization and connectivity. And everyone, each new generation, they want a new lifestyle and they want to enjoy a new space. And how can we provide for the next generation? That is the third task. And normally, in the last 20 years, when I started to make urban master plan 2020, 30, 40, the first step was we try to learn from the advanced city like Singapore, New York, and London, and Tokyo, and etc. But after pandemic, every global city has the same problem, same issues, and then we don't know what happened in the next future. And that's why the Seoul also should try to find a solution for ourselves. That is the reason why we began to 100 long-term plan. And of course, we had a long-term plan in quality of life and urban competitiveness. But in the reality, in the last 50 years, we focus oriented in urban development, in physical improvement instead of quality of life. And we thought the quality of life increased automatically when we became a global competitiveness. But in the fact, in the reality, as you see, it's not automatically. That's why we need change our mindset. So before, powerful city was a competitive city in Seoul. But from now on, we try to prioritize quality of life, human-oriented urban planning is necessary. That's why powerful city is a beloved city for the citizen. That is our direction for next 100 years. And to make 100-year plan, we need at least 2 points. We need change, 2 points. The first one, definition of citizen. Until now, the citizen of Seoul is the people who registered within a Seoul metropolitan boundary. But since 2000, Seoul became bigger and greater. And not only Seoul citizens, but also the people who live outside of Seoul, 8 or 9 million. 40% of the surrounding area, they work and study and shopping in Seoul metropolitan government. They belong to Seoul metropolitan government, and also the visitor. So that's why we need a new definition of Seoul. At least you as a visitor stay only 1 day in Seoul, you should be a concern as a Seoul citizen. We need a more flexible and inclusive population policies. That is the changing of the citizen. And second one, we didn't have any definition about quality of life. And from now on, new quality of, what is the quality of life for citizens Seoul? We should give more space for generous and relaxed life, and maybe some excited environment for the citizen. That is the new change idea of 100 years. In the last 15 years, I had a lot of innovative idea from citizen, from professional, from administrative, a lot of, but almost the innovative idea were rejected because of time. Oh, it takes a very long time. Because nowadays, the Seoul metropolitan government focus on the 4 years mayor's period. And sometimes the project belongs beyond the 4 years, and that should be rejected. And also some ideas that is not within the Seoul metropolitan government, but also in outside of Seoul. Then it is also rejected. Reject also because of the system. It's also is right. It's realistic to see is okay, but for our next generation or next generation, we need a more bold, more creative ideas. And that is the background of 100-year plan. We try to make a more bold proposal to break our limits, time and space and systems. That is the background of 100-year plan. So that is our vision house and vision. So next 100-year, city for all, anytime, anywhere, anyone. You can do everything. Everything possible in Seoul. That is our vision for long term. And then we need 3 goals. The first one, nature and human being oriented and hyperconnectivity. These 3 goals, and I will present briefly. The first one, city and nature. In the last 100 years, the environment, the green area, sacrificed for urbanization. And from now on, from urbanization to greenification. How can we realize it? Now in current, we have about 43% green area of whole city Seoul. And from now on, we try to reinvent, redevelop the old infrastructure and old residential area. Then we can create additional, it's about 47 or 50% in green area. And finally, our goal, about 85, 86% of whole city should be green area. That is the first goal. And second one, the Seoul citizens are suffering because of the long commute distance, over 30 kilometers long, and long commute time, 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And we try to change it within micro Seoul. If you imagine, if you work and live and enjoy within where you live, 15 minutes walkable environment, then it's good for quality of life. That is idea of micro Seoul. And the micro Seoul consists of course, residential, recreational, and services. And important thing is economic facilities. How can we create economic facilities? That is the most important thing. Anyway, that is the idea of micro Seoul. And third one, the connectivity. Nature and micro Seoul is good for daily life, good for citizens. But Seoul is a global city, capital city of Seoul. We need a more competitiveness and sustainable. That's why we need not only the connect within a neighborhood, but also we need to connect with major cities in Seoul and also in global cities. We try to improve it. 50 minutes slow and walkable environment, and 60 minutes within in country, and also between 30 and 45 minutes you are going to the airport to go to global mega cities. That is the hyperconnectivity. And then we need more the new hyperconnectivity mobility stations in the air and pedestrian area. And we have a second layer of underground, under one the subway and logistic. And under 40-meter long deep tunnel, we have a high-speed rail between the regional core. That was the idea, and now just the strategy. How can we realize it? First, on the nature, just the 6 strategic, and I think how can we make a nature? This lesson from Singapore. So first one, water conservation, restoration of the creeks and river and streams. In Seoul consists of over 15 or 20% the waterfront, but the waterway were covered and used as park places and road and etc. And we remember the most innovative project in 21st century in Seoul, Cheonggyecheon Restoration Project, and we can upgrade up to Cheonggyecheon project. And all of these places, the stream and creeks recovered, then we have more quality of life, and also we have a local economy boost through this restoration. That is the first one. 15% of our Seoul urbanized area became a green area. And we have over 12 city hubs, city cores. And today I saw the exhibition in Ho and in Singapore. We have also 10 or 12 city hub project. And that is the advanced lesson from the Singapore. And if we develop the city hub, we try to give us some 3-dimensional vertical green area for the districts. And it's important, 35% of urbanized area consists of low-rise residential area, which was developed in 1970s. And at the time, we don't have any open place and green places. But nowadays, over 60 years, getting older, we should try to renovate this area. And then we can give, instead of 5 or 10%, over 50%, we create a new green areas, like this one. And we have a big mega structure in railway, urban expressway, and elevated way, and riverside way. All of this big mega infrastructure is getting older, and we can try to underground it, and we rearrange this area. Then we create over 20% of our urbanized area as a new green, public, and another areas. Yeah, before and after. And we have also the big mega infrastructure like water storage depot or the railway depot. They can be also restructured to urban green areas. And finally, is over 90% of urbanized area became a green area. Then we have a metropolitan green network for carbon absorption, not only carbon absorption, but also create oxygen. I think that is a basic condition against the climate crisis and the net zero city, but also the basic condition for quality of life. Okay. The second, this is today's issues, micro soul. We should change our planning's paradigm from facility and function-oriented to activity-oriented and lifestyle-oriented. That is the idea of self-sufficient, compact micro-cities. And until, from now on, we focus on the city soul. We designated the inner city, facilities, and infrastructure, and we thought increase the global competitiveness and quality of life. But in fact, the quality of life is not realistic. And that's why change our idea from efficiency-oriented to daily life, active-oriented, human-oriented. And as you see here, no matter where you live, you can work and education and all services, daily services, within 15 minutes. Then could be a good environment for the citizen. That is our ideas. And this is not our creative idea of Seoul. After pandemic, this is a global trend. Every global cities, Melbourne, Portland, Barcelona, and Paris, and Minute City is global trend. And also in Seoul, and 2040 Seoul Master Plan, which was announced last year, we also proposed 116 micro self-sufficiency area. And then last 1 year, we discussed how realistic the 116 micro Seoul. And then we figured out it's so many, and it's not enough to make a self-sufficiency area. And that's why we changed the number of the micro Seoul instead of 100 to 50 micro Seoul. And how can we analyze it? We divided Seoul 700 small unit, the basic unit with a 1 kilometer diameter, and they have basic functions, business core and urban industrial, semi-industrial, commercial, university and R&D, health and administrative and residential, etc. And we analyzed and land use and density and facilities, and 700. And then we designated 50 main core, and as you see, that is a 50 main core of micro Seoul. That is a result of last 1 year. And how can we arrange the micro Seoul? I think, as I mentioned, we have 700 units with 1 kilometer diameter. That is the 15 minutes walking distance. When we call 동네, 동네 is Korean, is a neighborhood unit. And population is about 20,000 population. And each unit, they have some main function, like residential, cultural, educational, and commercial, and business, etc. And about 10 minimum units, 동네, come together to create a one micro self-sufficient city. So about 10 units. Then we have a 200,000 population. 200 population is enough to make a self-sufficient cities. And we have about 4 and 5 city center, core. That is very important. That create a job. That is the second level. And third level, 50 micro Seoul then come together and one Seoul metropolitan government over 10 million population. But it is not enough. Because surrounding area, we have 11 surrounding cities. We have surrounding cities with 8 million population. And 40% of 8 million population, they work and studies and together within the Seoul metropolitan government. That's why we should extend our idea micro Seoul, not only in Seoul metropolitan government, but also outside of Seoul. So altogether 50 million population with 80 micro Seoul, micro cities. Then, yeah, we have, that means we need a new governance and we need a new planning system, new planning structure. That is our next task. And it's not finished yet. Then the next level, all the country in Seoul, in Korea, we have 51 million population. Until now, we have about 9 provinces and 6 mega cities like Seoul, Incheon, Busan, Gwangju, etc. Until now, we have their own plan, and it is not enough to react in the future cities in old-fashioned. That's why we should try to divide all the country instead of 16 megacity province, 4 megacity regions, including Seoul, Grand Seoul, like this one. So, Seoul megacity region, and Chungcheong, and Honam and Yeongnam, 4 megacity regions, and each region they have their own micro Seuls. That is our next vision, and we are now working about this spatial structure and new governance, and we'll try to discuss with the central government in next year, and that is our idea. But at least this one, minimum and the micro Seoul, that is this metropolitan government Seoul, that is now we are working to realize. The minimum units, architecture and private and regenerations size, and micro Seoul is a new size for urban master plan. That is the new ideas. Okay. The main task, how can we realize it, is how can we prepare the job opportunity. That is very important. Because yeah, in city center, CBD is no problem, but periphery is not easy to create a job. Okay, and then at first the urban design from parcel oriented to area oriented. So 800 or 1 kilometer long is really, we try to make a city in the city, and in ground or in the air, public and private and residential, commercial, every function can gather in over. And then important is the underground. Underground we have energy storage systems and water disposal. And the first layer and subway logistic, and second layer and high-speed rail. All of this new structure. But it's easy to design this urban structure. But important is how can we fill the contents of the building. That is the idea. And then luckily in the last 30 years, the spatial structure of Seoul developed from one city core to polycentral. And now we have 3 CBDs and 7 mega cores and 12 local cores. That is the main, so about 20 cores work as a job opportunity center, and 50 local district center. And all together we have about 80 big or small size job opportunity core, and plus about 50 universities. Until now, the role of university is not so effective. But from now on, we try to improve the role of university, because university has potential in the future, starts up, innovative hub. And then we can try to combine between university and the city center core. That is our ideas, and that is the main first step to make a micro Seoul. And the realistic, the 50 micro Seoul cannot be promoted at once. Of course, it is not easy. And that's why step by step, and here I have 4 case studies which has potential, which has a lot of, now it's a project, ongoing project, then we can try to rearrange the project. And first case studies connect between campus town, university, and TOD, transit-oriented development. Here, this case located in northern part of Seoul, is periphery, and the Gwangwon Technical University, a lot of potential for startup IT, and etc. But they need more place and spaces to make a startup. But they couldn't find it within the university. Near over the campus town, we have a big transit-oriented development. They have a big spaces, but they don't have any contents. And we can try to combine between university and TOD transit. And then surrounding area, we have old residential area and the waterfront, etc. We can try combine between such ideas. And that is the size of micro Seoul within a 200,000 population. And then we can try to call a comprehensive plan for each area. There's a global mega cities and Yongsan global business park with national park and also the innovative semi-industry park, all together with waterfront project. It is an old residential area, over 40 years long, and it should be renovated. And without the micro Seoul, the residential area will be renovated as a new apartment, just only residential function. But in micro Seoul, maybe 70% residential and 30% for commercial and the city function, combined with high-tech R&D center, which located near of the residential area on the waterfront. And finally, as you see here, the right under, we have about 10 big hubs which located between Seoul periphery and surrounding area. And if we make here some core, then the people who live outside of Seoul, they don't need to come to inner city. They can work in the edge city. That is also an idea of micro cities. So finally, how can we become a competitive city worldwide? Yeah, we need a new connectivity. And as you see, we changed the spatial structure. Instead of 3, 7, and 12 local centers. And in the future, I think the Han River waterfront project is very important. Nowadays, also 8 important hubs concentrated in Han River. And we try to make a spatial structure in front of Han River with a new transportation system. And that is an idea. And also because of the flood, because of the sea level, we have 3 layers. The 22 meter over the sea layer is no problem in 100 years. But between 15 and 22 meter, maybe 10 days per year, if we have a flood, then we have a new structure in public station. That is the 3-dimensional multi-layered city level. And this is an idea where you live, how you fast and safe to the inner cities, to the countries, and to the airport. So that is our strategy. And finally, the next step, the beginning of the 100-year plan. Of course, we need that is an idea. Also, the idea should be improved through workshop, through global workshops. And then the second step, we need a new governance, we need a new planning system, and we need a new institution on role. That is the strategic institution. That could be our next step. And the Seoul Metropolitan Government prepared such phase 2 in the next year. And we need a new governance. And we need also the global forum and workshop and identification and design forum. And we need to share this idea with the citizen and with professionals, etc. So, and finally, the goal of 100-year plan is not to show the strategic, but we try to begin with the citizen for the next 100 years. That is our first step, and that's why we need a global partnership, not only in Seoul citizens, but also in global partnership with the different major urban planning, architecture, etc. And I think we discussed about the 100-year plan, the last Mayor Forum Summit, World Summit in Singapore in June. And then I think the Lee Kuan Yew network is one of the important partnership, and we can start to discuss for our better cities. And I think good city is the citizen doesn't take care of the future of city. They can concentrate on their own business. The better city should be the citizen and professional and worldwide specialists all together think about the city, future of the city, and discuss and find a solution cooperative. I think that is a better city, and that is the motivation of 100 Year. And I think today we have a first step for the best city. And thank you for the listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for that very comprehensive sharing. I'm sure it'll prompt quite a few questions from the floor. Just a quick note that we will be taking questions during the moderated Q&A sessions. But first, I'd like to invite Dr. Sergi Sauri for his sharing on Barcelona's Superblock. Dr. Sergi, please.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the Center for Livable Cities for the invitation. So it's a big honor today to explain about Barcelona initiative, about the Superblocks, and give you an insight. My presentation will be more focused about mixing, you'll see the story of the city, mobility, long-term planning. So I will make several aspects I will talk. Okay. So today the presentation, the idea was the starting point, no, about the urban planning, the original planning of Barcelona, no? Because it's when we'll make sense or we'll understand better why the initiative of the Superblocks, no? Otherwise, it looks like something they show up one day just to improve the quality of the citizens, the space, but at the end, when you analyze the history, the whole thing makes a lot of sense, no? In fact, they make a connection about what happens in the past, and it's a way to answer or solve a problem in a way that in a similar way that was done before in the past. No, I was thinking more just to move a little bit. So later we talk about the concept of the Superblock initiative. So you will see like we have switched a little bit the scope, the approach. Later we talk in the context of the livable cities, and later in the context of the mobility policies. No? Thanks a lot. Okay. So let's start with the starting point, the urban plan of Sardà. No? This is Barcelona, the structure, the Gita structure. I mean, in so many cities are like this. No? You see, it's not something very strange around the world to find this kind of initiatives. No? But this is more what we have. No? And this morphology, and when initially was created this structure, was based on some needs of the city. No? So initially, this is Barcelona before Plan Sardà. No? So this part of here was the old medieval walls. The city was completely isolated. No? Imagine we're talking about the 19th century, so at the beginning, so industrial revolution. So many people from the countryside of Barcelona were coming to the city, new jobs, no? Usually with related with industrial in that moment. So here was completely crowded of people. So the city was not able to expand because physical. So imagine there when you have all these situations, so it was difficult to grow. So imagine in addition to that was not potable water, sewage system, so was not health, no sanitation infrastructures, no? So you can imagine the conditions in this city, so the consequences, high population city and poor hygienic conditions. Sounds about the pandemics, no, what we have. So just some data to see what it's, to figure out what was the situation. So the average life expectancy was 36 years old, only for the rich people. If you were a poor people or employee was 23 years old. In addition, another data, in 39, 54, and 65 we have the cholera. So imagine, this was the starting point of the planning. So the government, in that moment, the central government decided we need to expand Barcelona because, so to remove the medieval age and to expand. And this was very interesting when arrived the Plan Sardà. This plan was interesting because it was approved by the central government. And in fact, the city hall was against this plan. They have another vision, no? In fact, it was very controversial about that. So you realize the structure, so the original plan, this grid structure. So basically, the conception of Sardà was the territory was made by two main things. One is ways, no? So here, this ways was for mobility, was for urban service, was from tree, from urban space, place for connection, for connecting people to be together. And between these ways, we have, we'll say, between the ways we have places, was more for thinking for a private space, It's when we have another interesting thing of maybe very typical is this concept, no? Was very 45 degree, no? It's what in Catalan we call chanfra. I know it's difficult to pronounce, no? It's very typical from there. So was thinking it was very novel in that time. Was not, I mean, this kind of a structure was pretty, you can see in so many cities, no? But this concept was new and was thinking to improve visibility because was thinking in the future, the cars, no? We're thinking about the industrial revolution, so Cerdà was visioning in the future there will be no cars there. So the city should be prepared for mobility. No? So what's the concept of this? So we're thinking about not this structure, but one of the things is, in fact, this design of the city was very focused on the needs of the people. Why the city hall was against this? Because especially the bourgeoisie was against this. Because in some way was thinking more about the poor, to solve the poor conditions of the citizens, the employees of the factories. So all the design was thinking about the needs of the people. So what's these needs, for instance? Maybe here it's very clear when we go back to this specific design, no? Maybe we'll see in more detail. This concept was thinking about, okay, let's have here the housing. In the middle will be garden, parks, so people can reproduce, no? The conditions they have in the countryside. Usually the houses were designed in such way they have a natural light, but also ventilation, thinking about the sanitation, no? Thinking about the color, about this epidemic. So this was important to think. Even all the details about the size was thinking about the people. No? For instance, in the old times, people were carrying on the water, no? So we're thinking like the height of the building will be enough that the people can manage bringing the water up. No? These kind of designs. Another aspect was the length of the streets was 20, 30, or 50 meters, depends. No? It's pretty wide when you see the designs at that time because we're thinking about in the future of mobility. No? We're thinking about. That moment, Cerdà was really fascinated about the idea of the railway, no? Because was just appeared the railway, but they was visioning that in the future, the people will move in a some way. No? So this was the original design. So this was the starting point. As you can see here, the concepts, no? For instance, my colleague was introducing before, no? About livable cities, was very present in this design. No? What happens in practice? No? You can imagine this design, you go to Barcelona, it's very rare to see that. What is the normal? So you will see this, it's occupied by buildings. Instead of being 16 maximum high with twice, no? And some places still you can have parks, some places. Even in one place you can have a swimming pool and are really crowded. But this is not what we have today, no? You can imagine the city hall was against that, so at the end of the day, the regulations, the planning, no, the development, the 60s, the 70s, the speculation of the real estate market makes these plans in practice very difficult to move forward. No? So in practice was very difficult to, was not the case. So, no, so these concepts you can see, no, they give priority to people. Also was thinking the circulation, no, circulate from the housing and the concerns of mobility, as already told you. No? So this was the starting point. So when you go back, one of the ideas, no, was very challenging of Cerdà, and again, I'm repeating this part of the history because you will see later the Superblocks fit with this. No? It's a consequence of this philosophy, but with the current situation, is to ruralize the urban and urbanize the rural. No? So the idea is just a balance between the urban values, no, the values of connectivity, meeting people, the value of, no, of sharing knowledge, no, getting more knowledge, with the rural advantage. No? Me, for instance, I come from a village, so you have the rural advantage, the trees, the nature, some peace, no noise. No? People from the villages, something we really appreciate a lot, no, when we move to a city. So in Cerdà, also they come from a village. So they envisioned this way of designing the city. So Barcelona originally, the plan was thinking about the needs of human scale. Was not a city thinking in monumentals, was not a city thinking about big things to impress people, was just a city thinking in terms of how the citizens can live in a proper way there. It was the old design. What happens in practice? Well, in practice, they started developing things, they were occupied all the blocks completely. And of course, this is the situation we have today. A huge pollution. In addition to that, Barcelona, one of the reasons it's so polluted, aside from the traffic, like all many cities, the density is really high. In addition, we're surrounded by mountains, so it makes very difficult, basically, they make almost impossible the expansion of the city. So the end result, we have a lot of pollution. No? The quality of life is not really good. If you see the data based on the Health Organization, when you see in the center, for instance, when it's the red, the quality of the air or the limits are much higher, no, than what is recommended. So this is what the starting point when we need to rethinking about the city we want. You know? It's like we need to rethink. No? So the mobility policies, it's a big issue, but one of the big issues is also, of course, the idea of superblocks. No? So keep in mind this, this idea, original idea, is when we're thinking about the superblocks. Okay, so now all of this is occupied completely. So the only way to put this green area is outside. It's outside. So inside was not possible, let's go to outside. And this is the starting point of the superblocks. So the original idea, when was creating, now they changed a little bit, so we talk about that, was thinking about, imagine this is the grid structure with all the traffic. Usually the limit is 50 kilometers per hour. In practice, depends. No, it's not so much traffic, the people, of course, going faster. You have public space, private cars, bikes, pedestrians. Sometimes it's really dense, the space. I mean, driving in Barcelona is really challenging sometimes. So the idea is, thinking, for instance, another interesting data, in the central area of l'Eixample is the grid structure we said in Catalan, only we have 1.82 meters square of green space per habitant. When the recommendation is talking more than 10, it's a need of green space. For instance, I remember, this is more personal anecdote, but when in the pandemics, in some point we're allowed to leave our space or apartments in 1 kilometer around. In 1 kilometer, where I was living in the center of Barcelona, was no green space. Impossible to find anything. No? So the idea is, let's expand what we have in the past outside. So originally, we're thinking about getting together all this space, about 9 blocks together, 400 meters by 400 meters, and in this side we create an area that is restricted to the cars, only the citizens, because of course when you have the car it's impossible not to remove and to promote the bikes, to promote the pedestrians space. So the traffic, here will be much less traffic. The design of the urban space is really important, and the rest of the traffic goes through the main roads. So increasing the pedestrian space and also the green area. This solution, in fact, has been conceived as a part of the mobility urban plan. Since 2013, every 5 years, we're doing sustainable urban mobility plan, and it's included as a part of the measures. We'll see later, we'll make a reflection about how these measures they fit in our mobility policies. We'll see it's an important step moving forward. So maybe here it's more a detail about this idea of model. I mean, when we're thinking about pedestrians areas, we need to thinking about all the consequences they have. It's not easy. I mean, the expansion. I mean, we have this model, we have all the cars, urban train distribution, very important, especially now, after the pandemics, the e-commerce is growing a lot, everywhere of the world. So imagine the problem, you have more and more trucks around the city. So how we manage this? We have the parking, the buses network, so when you have this solution, you affect the buses network, so important. So you switch to a model, more thesis green, but you need to think to provide service to the cars of the neighbors, how to provide the service of urban freight distribution, or even some service like ambulance and so on. For instance, here, there are some initiatives about the urban freight distribution, very interesting. For instance, the fact of the micro depots, that you make a small area, a storage area, you have the big trucks going here, and later with cargo bikes you make the last mile delivery. So at the end of the day, we are testing solutions that can fit well with this idea. So this is the main idea of this project. So when they start, we start with a pilot case. It's the famous case of Poblenou. This is the 22 dot district, someone it's familiar. It was a very controversial because first was not very residential, was more for workshop, it was more like, I will say, a technological district, so at the end of the day, the citizens were not able to enjoy so much at the beginning. Later, with the years, there came more people to live, so still, but the beginning was very controversial. One of the things were a little more controversial was the design. I mean, you can see it was not very Just we paint something, we put urban space, was in a way tactical urbanism we call now, So something is the next step. But at the beginning was the way to start with this initiative. Was controversial, because it was not easy. The city engagement was important. Some people didn't understand well, complain about the traffic and so on. You can imagine, or you're aware about every initiative you put in the urban space. It's difficult, but was the starting point. So was some lessons learned, sometimes for mistakes, another for making a good solutions, and was the next. Another was in San Antonio Market. Was very interesting. This, for instance, is another one. It's pretty recent. Imagine this was an old market, all of this was to drive, so suddenly you make everything pedestrian, you put some parts, and they create a very nice atmosphere, because even, for instance, during the weekends, it's a lot of activities. For instance, the kids, for charging cars of sports, you go there, so it's a lot of other ones, so it's a good space, a quality space to do that. Even a second-hand books, here, for instance, it's all the places for second-hand books. So you see, it's a lot of life around there. It's a quality space. Some people are in the bar, some people not. So it's a relaxing. They transform. They make a big change. This initiative. So this was a very good lesson, a very good result of this. So later, here, for instance, we make an analysis. It's something we'll present more tomorrow. We are doing a current ongoing research with the Central Level Cities and CENIT about to provide a tool to make an assessment of this kind of initiatives. Because every time the governments are really concerned about how to implement, because why? At the end of the day, it affects a lot of aspects. It affects the economic aspects, which is the commerce we have there. It's very likely some stores will benefit from these initiatives, but on others, maybe we can have a change. A restaurant, they will benefit, no doubt. Others will be more difficult. The mobility patterns, they will change. Of course, you have an important effect. Environmental issues, they reduce the pollution, they reduce also the noise in that area, on the social and health situations. So we analyze in each Superblock these kind of pillars. Each pillar they have an indicators. We make the analysis before, after, and the threshold. What we thinking is the limit to accept, like reasonable the results. So basically, this is just an overview, but some interesting comments. Regarding the pollution level, we're talking with environmental. They give a good spaces, so they make a good contribution in this way, because again they reduce the pollution, they help with the noise also. And we go to the traffic calming also was positive, because they reduce a lot of the traffic in the area. Again, what is the challenge to expand this solution to the bigger scale in the city? When we go to, for instance, improvement, in social was, well, in the terms of noise was not very good. So these were the levels. Sorry, I said before was more the pollution, here the level, the air pollution, sorry. Here it's more the, exactly, it's a mix with this, the urban space with good quality. Here in terms of pollution and noise, there was some kind, but were not very good. And also the economical way. And economical, well, the results were not increased so much. The economical was not the main purpose, but they increased so much. Yeah. So now they're doing a new analysis, the City Hall. So I think it's the next one, well, with more detail, and we'll have new data very soon about what happens, on the long terms. Also, another thing is what is the value of the real estate sector. It's very likely they will increase. So still, it's an ongoing research we're doing. So next year, will be published. So what happens? The problem is to increase this solution at bigger scale. Imagine you have this in Barcelona, but you start putting a lot of them. In fact, we submit a research during the City Summit this last June that we show that if you expand this solution to a bigger scale, if there is the possibility, like it's some kind of trade-off. The people living here inside, they have a very quality of life. But if you don't reduce the traffic, the people outside, the Superblock, they really have a very bad quality of life. So even the end result can be, from the perspective of cost-benefit analysis, even negative. So it's very important to address this with mobility policy measures properly. So the City Hall was concerned about that, so they changed a little bit the approach. So the idea is, okay, let's forget about the Superblock and let's talk about, we can solve no, the green spaces, but more in terms of lines, no? In Catalan we say eixos verds, no? Green ways, we can say, no? So basically we have this, we'll see an example what is the idea behind that, and also we have the squares, and we have all these green space. This is the final picture that we would like to have the city hall. But of course it's challenging how to implement this in terms of thinking about, for instance, the bus network, how to implement this. The traffic, we need to reduce the traffic. What is the problem of the traffic of Barcelona? We need to improve the metropolitan mobility, the commuter train. So when you're thinking about this, you need to think in also in big scale, in the metropolitan scale. Also it's challenging there. Well, the idea of this axis, no, or when you go to the green streets, is to get this kind of designs. No? So as you can realize, no, we increase a little bit the green. Here we need to be aware it's not the weather of Singapore, so we cannot put so much green. We need to be careful because often we have problems with water, unfortunately. No? Because no, I really love here, it's really all the green and all the, no, here, unfortunately we cannot do so much with the weather. No? But this is the idea, no? For instance, this is another project, I mean, or another idea they have, no, about this picture. Now we'll see another real examples. No? But this is what the several types of streets they are planning to do. And here, for instance, will be the squares. No? This L'Eixample, we said, is 45 degrees, so end up something like this. No? This is the squares. This is the final vision we have as a city. So here, exactly, you see another example. The possible, you know, how it was before and was planning to do in the future, no? in this vision. So, again, sorry, let me check the timing. Okay, just sorry. So this is the idea we would like to expand. In some way, we start with something. So the previous government, now we switched the governments last year. So the previous government was very major determinant with this. Very determined. So going forward, so they start in 22, some corridors. It's one you have here, no? You can consider the CENIT street, all of these. So it really, it's that soon we'll have all the data about the before the implementation and the final implementation, some indicators. We'll see now in a slide what is the indicator we are measuring. But one is going to the street, seems very successful, to be honest. You see a lot of life there. No, later we'll see the details. We'll have to be critical about things, but in fact, this is what they're starting. No? Another important thing I would like to point out is no political consensus with this project. I mean, the political parties from the left side of the City Hall, they like the idea, they envision this is the future. They are not agree how to implement it. No? Some political parties are, like the previous measure, are thinking about they have to be strong implementation, determined implementation. The current government is more cautious, no? About that because they are collective. Usually, for instance, the business association usually are very cautious, no? Because they are worried that there's no cars, there will not be business. No? It's a lot of this in mind. So usually they are very worried about that. And so the current government is more cautious about how to implement this, how fast they can go. But the vision they have in long term is like this. No? This is what we have to be like this Barcelona. Some picture about the current. You can see when you start implementing this solution, it's a lot of life. Suddenly the people occupy the space. No? I mean, and you put something for the kids, immediately after the people go to school, it's completely full. And you filled with activity, and so at the end of the day, you can see that aside from the potential indicators, no, about the real estate, this, that, at the end of the day, you see going there, you see it's a lot of life. No? So it's so far it's a successful. No? Here, for instance, another real picture. What is the situation? Imagine put this and compare how it was before, with cars, with a small area for pedestrians. It's another quality of life. No? So here another example about that. So sometimes one of the things, and it's a challenge we'll talk later, is how you fill this space. Once we remove the cars, what is the best way? Now, here it's interesting because here it's an interesting place for the psychologists, no, to work in this. No? What is the perceptions? What is the way? Before we're talking about, no, my colleague before, about to make a happy city, for quality of life. Here, for instance, the urbanization of this is a big issue related with that. So anyway, so what was not easy to implement this? So the City Hall developed a community engagement and partnership, no? Because let's fill the street with life, because again, it was a little bit controversial, especially the first one, the people were not used. The same way was controversial the original plan of Sardà more than 100 years ago. Happens the same type of collective who complained 100 years ago, basically they complain now. It's very interesting this, when you go back to history. No? So they make workshops, meetings, just to share concepts, the people can say what they want. So at the end of the day, even they inform the stakeholders about what is the planning to implement this solution, and they make all of this, even to share the results. At the end of the day, is to engage in the process, in the making decisions, the city halls. Okay, 5 minutes I have. So this is the monitoring and the data we have to collect. So we're planning. So at the end of the day, we're tracking about the situation before and afterwards, and to see the lessons. So hopefully, we'll come back in the near future with more lessons learned based on real data. So I would like to point out in the last minutes about 2 aspects of this that are very challenging. Because when you see the solution of the Superblocks from the theoretical perspective, makes a lot of sense, it's reasonable, they have potential, but there are 2 challenges we need to address there. First is how to put this in the context of livable cities, cities to live, quality of life. And here the key element is how design the top, and another is the mobility. At the end of the day, we need to be aware where in the economical system we are, and citizens, they need to move, we need economical activity, and we need to guarantee the mobility. So I would like to put here the importance of the design of the urban space. Some thoughts. I mean, I'm not expert in this topic, but at least I would like to put some thoughts. One is from Lévis Montfort, who make a very interesting books about the culture of cities, the development of cities. And one of the things is, at the end of the day, with the technical advantage, it's happened a lot today, it's a very current thought today, and scientific advantage sometimes, we're not to have a connection with the natural environment. We're disconnected about nature often, very disconnected. Especially in cities. I can tell you in Barcelona, we're very disconnected about things. Sometimes the globalization, even they increase these disconnections. We're thinking more in global cities, thinking more in get foreign capital, more in the consumption. And at the end of the day, one of the experts, Manuel Pastis, point out some ideas. Of this, they turn into 2 big elements. First, the loss of cultural idiosyncrasy, and another, the ecological particularism. So here can be an opportunity, the redesign of these spaces, maybe to reconnect a little bit with the local environment, to reconnect a little bit. I remember something happens one time, having a discussion with someone of the City Hall about, I was complaining about we need more green because once you have this space for pedestrians, he told me, well, it's not easy the maintenance. Of course, the weather of Barcelona, we have a lot of draw, it's very dry, so it's difficult to maintain. I say, well, you can put a local species. I said, no, because the people complain like it's not well maintained. So people associate natural with something green, like a beautiful garden. So it's, again, another idea how disconnected we are often about this. So it's, again, a good opportunity for that. Here it's a big improvement for psychologists, for another fields, to rethinking about this, how to make this urban space. Another challenge we have is the mobility. Here, usually people of mobility were separated from the people from urban planning. But when you're thinking about, it's something I think really challenging here. There was a book some years ago talking about the structure of the scientific revolutions, how you're thinking in science, how we advance. And some author, Jones, analyzing this book, translate this in terms of transportation, like transportation revolutions. The transportation revolution doesn't come from new tools, new technology. They come from the framework. Every time we change the framework, we make a revolution. So we change the paradigm. Our first paradigm, as engineers, we're thinking about traffic road policies. So you're talking about the old engineers, traffic flow theory. we're talking about the urban growth, we're talking about, there was important national car companies, no? You can understand people living isolated, so the car, they give you freedom, no? They give you the accessibility. So all the cities were thinking in terms of the vehicles, how we make possible to make people, no? They have a car, they can use the car in the cities, no? Was the first paradigm. Later we realized they create a lot of congestion, problems, the quality of life was not very good. So now we switch the paradigm, and we go to the paradigm like we introduce, we keep the traffic, we're thinking about the traffic, the same origin-destination matrices. So we're assuming the people, they move in the same way, but we try that these people, it's moving in a more sustainable way. So now we're promoting public transportation, for instance, try to reduce traffic, try to put more, for instance, road pricing, and so on. But we're more in this stage now. We're in this transition now. We're realizing this is not enough. It's not enough. So now we're introducing a new elements in this policy. One is, for instance, the bikes, sharing, car sharings, but also the redefinition of the space. So the fact like, okay, in this space, maybe we start removing cars and put pedestrians. But it's another aspect is when you connect and you decided to change even the origin-destination matrix. For instance, the 15-minute city, it's more another level. It's thinking more in an holistic approach and thinking about livable cities. I forget mobility in some way, and I'm thinking about livable cities. How integrate mobility in the urban planning. In fact, this 15-minute city is this approach. So let's go to the origin-destination matrix, and let's to reduce. Sometimes when we say, the most sustainable mobility is the one that doesn't exist. So let's go to reduce the origin-destination matrix. Let's focus on where the people have to go, how to locate the activities to make sure we reduce the vehicles kilometer or the mobility of the people. So the Superblocks can be in this, for instance. So I think from the urban planning, from the mobility perspective, we're switching to another paradigm that we incorporate elements that was more typical only in the urban planning, but now they should be together with the transportation planning. In fact, in Seoul we're doing this approach also. So I'm thinking we're more in this, again, we're more in this step. So many cities are in this, but I think it's very likely we'll see another. So, and just to finalize, we're thinking the framework of the holistic approach of mobility. This kind of policies like initiatives like the Superblocks, it's in this way. It's here I put a phrase of almost 100 years ago. It's 100 years, but it's very real. At the end of the day, to reduce the overcrowding traffic in Times Square, we should thinking about how to changing the origin destination. Again, we need to think in a bigger scale. So we need to have more a comprehensive vision of mobility, several transport, have more a metropolitan region analysis of mobility. We have more thinking in territorial planning as a mobility planning tool. In so many city halls, both perspectives are separated. They should be together, in fact. And also thinking in mobility in terms of all the value chains of resources in planning. And say, maybe the most sustainable mobility is the one that doesn't exist. So this is basically some of the thoughts. So thanks for your attention, and later we'll have more chance to discuss this.
Thank you, Dr. Sergi, for the insightful sharing on Superblocks in the context of livable cities and reconnecting people with the local environment. Next, we'll be moving on to the moderated Q&A session, which will be moderated by CLC's Executive Fellow, Mr. Michael Koh. Mr. Michael Koh has 25 years of experience in the public service, including 7 years as CEO of the National Heritage Board and 4 years concurrently as CEO of the National Arts Gallery. As former Director of Urban Planning and Design at the Urban Redevelopment Authority, he also led key projects such as the new mixed downtown in Marina Bay, Orchard Road revitalization, and the creation of Bras Basah Bugis Arts and Entertainment Districts. I would now like to invite Dr. Kim, Dr. Sauri, and Mr. Michael Koh onto the stage for the moderated Q&A session.
Hello everyone, nice to see everyone. Welcome again to a CLC lecture. Thank you for coming. We're a little bit short of mics today because there's another event next door, so we're going to have to share mics if you don't mind. Now, thank you very much, both Inhee and Sergi, for your amazing in-depth discussion and presentations. You can see how much thought there has been put in to both plans from both cities. And I think the issue is also that whole refinement of process that has been done. I think a few years ago, we talked to Dr. Kim about 100 microsols. And now I think through that process of refinement and through a lot of new ideas, etc., it's been refined to 50 microsol. And also for Sergi, I think we all saw the original plan of the 400 by 400 block size. And this was propagated all over Barcelona. And now we see that, again, that revised plan, that it's no longer 400 by 400. So I'd just like to actually begin with a general discussion with both of you. How did you feel? Were you disappointed? I mean, I personally was very disappointed when I saw the revised Barcelona plan. We were mooting for, the 400 by 400, and then we saw the change plan to the lead system, etc. And then for Inhee, 100 to 50, that's half. So how do you feel about these issues, and what is the additional thought process? I know you may have faced some issues systematic-wise or land-use-wise in the case of Seoul. I think in the case of Barcelona, it's probably change of leadership, change of vision. So maybe I'd ask both of you to elaborate a bit on this, and we can start with Inhee and then move over to Sergi. I think.
Yeah, originally we proposed 116 neighborhood units as a micro self-sufficiency units, because it is not new. It was in the last 30 years long, we have neighborhood units, and we have 25 districts, and each district we have 3 or 4 existing neighborhood units. And when we began to make a master plan 2040, then we thought, not only we and its professional and districts, yeah, maybe we can transfer the neighborhood unit as a self-sufficient microsol without the detailed analysis, just instinct. And it's okay, it could be. And that's why we adopted the 100 micro self-sufficiency city in 2040 legal statutory plan. And then since last year, we began work with districts, professional and citizen together, and we figured out, oh, maybe 100 is too much, too so many. And it is too small to be a self-sufficient area. And at least we need over 200,000 population to be a self-sufficient. And then we changed it from 100 to 50. But the 50 microsol is not published until now, because the project is ongoing, and next year will be finished. And that is the interim result with the metropolitan government. And of course, our mayor will announce about the 100-year plan. Then after that, we will begin to discuss, to share with the citizen districts. Then maybe it will be decided. And that's why I don't have any problem from 100 to 50, because that is realistic and flexible. And to be honest, 50 is also too much. Maybe the realistic, I think 35 or 40 microsol is a good size for the Seoul, because except Seoul, we have 300 small or medium-sized city in all of Seoul in country. In our country, in South Korea, the city has size between 100,000 to 300,000 with big size, of course, than micro city. But I think that's why 100 or 200,000 population could be the minimum size for the microsol. That's why we figured out the 50 microsol.
Thank you very much, Inhee. And now, Sergi.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, at the end of the day, when we analyze the change, it's related with governance model, with economy, city engagement. So the original plan was created of the Superblock, the concept. So we make one case, was isolated, and then the previous mayor said, okay, it's a very good idea, we'll expand to the city, the whole city. Personally, I'm not aware. They make a deep analysis what will happen in terms of implementing the whole solution in the whole city. Because at the end of the day, as we said, we have cars. We cannot eliminate this issue unless we address the mobility. No? So I think they were really aware that at the end of the day it was not feasible, that implementation, in the current situation now. So that's why they switched to the green. No? So now they start doing one. The new measure, they say, well, let's see, maybe we'll go slowly. So, but at the end of the day, can be upsetting. Maybe I'm aware about that, but at the end, the most difficult thing is from 0 to 1. This is the most difficult thing. Once we have one and it's successful, later will get easier. No? I mean, we need to be aware, like for instance, no, we're thinking about the Superblocks. It's not like a hard infrastructure. I mean, they are infrastructure, they structure the territory. No? For instance, we're thinking about planning a new railway connection. Once you do that, no, the expansion is a consequence of that. But at the end of the day, these solutions, well, they can be adapted. No? So I think it's important to start, at least, to start. I think we need to be practical in some way. No? I know that I was thinking about more of the planning, this long term, but at the end of the day, it's okay. We're able to do something feasible, and let's start with this. No?
And thank you very much, Sergi. Indeed, I think that's exactly the way how the pedestrianization of Times Square in New York City started. It started as a pilot, they painted the road, then they closed it slowly, and look at it now. It's a 100% success. It is the place to go in New York City. So what Sergi is saying is start it first, try it. And Inhee, I think in Seoul as well, I think I already see some very successful micro Souls. For example, Hongdae. I love Hongdae. There's a university, there's office, there's residential, there's a whole youth shopping street, and this is very interesting. So I guess the moral of the story here is, and it's an issue we face in Singapore, and I think the planners who are out there in the audience, please take heart, because we just went through, for example, or Sydney just went through the conversion of George Street to a transit mall, and it was faced with fantastic resistance. As Sergi said, no cars, no business. Same thing for Herrengasse in Vienna. It was a 4-lane shopping street, and now it's a beautiful shopping, pedestrianized street with trees that were not in existence before. And again, you should see the photos of protests, no cars, no business. And I think that's the real heroics whereby we can learn from examples like Seoul and Barcelona. London, for example, Mayor Sadiq Khan has proposed pedestrianization of Oxford Street. To date, he has not been able to do it. But he has now, as Sergi encouragingly said, has gone to visit New York and he's learning and adjusting the plan. So I guess the question now to both of you is, beyond the pilots, and I mentioned Hongdae as a pilot, your pilot block as a pilot, how can we then propagate this and push it further, especially in other cities, this idea of sharing this knowledge of the success of your pilot block, the success of some of the initial microsoul? How can we push it and share that knowledge with the world in cities which are suffering from that same congestion, lack of greenery, or that lack of will to convert car streets to pedestrian streets? Maybe this time I ask Sergi to start, and then Inhee.
Well, sometimes, as usual in this kind of initiatives, it's step by step. No, you know that it's a curve of propagation of the new things. No, usually at the beginning it's very difficult, and they go super fast. No, I think it's something like this. I mean, sometimes, it's cases, successful cases, to show them, no, to have lighthouse cities in this way. But also, it's my recommendation with cities start with something easy. No, for instance, now we're working with the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan of Ankara, the city, and you can imagine the city, the pedestrians area, it's a lot of culture of cars. So, but remember when they visited Barcelona, they were fascinated about the Superblocks, and they said, no, here it's impossible. Well, don't start with something easy. No? For instance, start with streets with low traffic now, with the streets in front of schools, for instance, right? This is something easy to start with. Start with slowly, and I think when the people get used to the newer space, it will be difficult to come back. No? So sometimes it's much better to start with something easy that doesn't represent a big thing. I mean, for instance, no? and a street in front of the school, it's not a big thing. It will not affect dramatically the traffic or the mobility. And I think it's something, it's like a strategy, long-term strategy to involve the citizens. I think it's the way to that. I mean, before this experience of the New York, and now, for instance, I remember Washington because every year I attend a Congress, the Transportation Research Board, till 2008. So it's a city, every year I'm going since then, no? And now they're doing some kind of tactical urbanism. I remember streets, they put New Jerseys, a little bit ugly, but it's okay. And they start the people, the bars, no? You see even in some cities that they were really traffic-centric, that they're changing their mind, no? So I think it's this kind of small solutions that they help to implement.
I'm lucky because I'm an urban planner, and since 2008-9, I have been working on master plan whole cities, and in this point, I didn't have any big protest against master plans. And opposite, the citizens want more green, citizens want the districts want more pleasant environment and safety and etc. And that's why it is hard to reject the request. And that's why, at this point, not protest, they want more pleasant and more greener city. And that is our task. But if you work in districts level and the regeneration level, that is a crisis. It is a very complicated situation. But in master plan level, we gave a direction with the citizen, we gave a guideline. And this, to this point, we don't have any problem because we have a lot of experience with the citizen, the first. And second one, the pilot project. And now we have 25 districts, and we want to make some model project. And a lot of districts, they want to participate in it. And we want to cooperate with them. And the main key of success is how can we give the authority to the districts? Because they knew the local area better than Seoul Metro government. But until now, Seoul Metro government don't want to give the authority to the districts. That is a problem. But the Seoul Metro government wants authority from the central government. That is a problem. Then that's why the micro-Seoul, the realistic process for micro-Seoul is not only the decentralization, but also that is a good approach to the citizen with a local level. And that's why I think the key of success, we will, in the next step, we will try to cooperate with not the Seoul Metro government, but the districts level. And then we can find good lessons. And maybe if we have a few model projects, then we can figure out, maybe we can change the guideline, we can change the systems, and that is a step by step we can learn from the trial and error. Yeah.
Very valuable lessons here. Trial and error, pilot, experiment, be bold. And I think these are lessons that other cities also have experienced. So for the case studies like in Herrengasse, Vienna, after all the protests, after it was implemented, not a word. Everybody was happy, overjoyed. So what happened to the protesters, right? Same thing, I think, in George Street. After the transit mall was implemented last year, all the detractors, the critics, kind of disappeared. So maybe there's a lesson learned here. There's the will, we must experiment, let's do it and try it out. All right, so just questions here. Gentrification. So in all this upgrading and the pedestrianization of streets, the Superblock, and I think in micro-Seouls, is there going to be a danger of gentrification and then population moving out, creating more problems of affordability, of housing, etc.? So maybe Inhee now.
10 years ago, the gentrification was very big issues in Seoul Metro because there are many hot places, and because of gentrification, the hot places disappeared, and we have a problem. And the government tried to protect against the gentrification. Every trial were failed because I think the gentrification cannot stop it. But I think the government think, gentrification has a negative effect, but they have also a positive effect. I think the negative effect maybe 10 or 20%. The positive effect 80%. But government concentrated on the 20%. And to protect the 20%, we lost 1980 positive. And that is the problem. And I think that's why gentrification is good for the micro city, because if I think 20 years ago in Seoul, 30 years ago, when I was a student, we have just 3 or 4 hot places, gentrification. Through gentrification nowadays, of course, some hot places disappeared, but nowadays over 15 or 20 hot places overall in the city. And the gentrification developed and hot places. And the hot places not only beverage and clubs, but also they gave a new job opportunity for the new generation. And as you showed, we have 54 universities, and around university you have hot places. And you can, that is a positive, if we try to connect the positive effect to the city core, then we can make a more local opportunity, the job places. That's my aspect for gentrification. And I'm lucky that we have a lot of gentrification process in Seoul. Some places in disappeared, but the more places created the new opportunity. And that's why I think this could be a positive for the...
Thank you, Inhee. And over to you, Sergi, from a picture from Barcelona.
Depend the context. Depend the context. When I'm thinking about in a city that can be expanded easily, at the end of the day, there are economical forces, no? The gentrification is economical force. The end result is you have so many polycentrics, no? It's Los Angeles, no? And so the problem of Barcelona, it's difficult because it's very limited expansion, because just for physical reasons, we're surrounded by mountains. So now it's becoming a big issue. So many people they cannot afford. They are going outside. They are forced, but the economical activity is still very concentrated in Barcelona. No? So these kind of solutions are not helping because at the end are making more expensive things. No? So the central government here they are trying to develop new laws to reduce, no, especially with the renting pricing. No? With the people who have to have apartments, it's very difficult for the renting. They try to make laws that to reduce. No? But again, in the context where the city cannot be expanded and still the economic activity is very centered in one place, it's something difficult to manage. It's difficult to manage unless you have some laws to try to regulate the real estate market.
Thank you for that, Sergi. Interesting and different perspectives. I think there's concern in Barcelona about this because of lack of expansion possibilities. But I think in Seoul, Inhee sees it as really a positive factor and a change maker. So quite an interesting contrast in views here. And I'd like to just extend that question. Because when we build the microsols or when you do the superblocks or put the open spaces, you're going to have similar type of floor area release for commercial use. And then you get the same type of retail. You get the same type of restaurants. I mean, in Singapore, all our regional centers are commercial centers, quite the same. Because the food court is the same, the basic shops are the same, so it's one character. But how then do you keep that local neighborhood character, that local identity? Do you intervene? Or what do you want to do? Or how can we make sure that culture and local district character remains? Maybe Sergi first.
No, it's a very interesting question because it's something now we're facing a lot. I don't know these design Superblocks, they can help, no? But the thing is something more on a bigger scale. Sometimes it's related with more, before in the presentation I was talking about the global city. It's happening a lot, the global city, no? The global business. For instance, I will put an example in Barcelona. We have a lot of smaller stores. I think like so many places around the world, very local, sometimes they come from family. All this is disappeared, but not because the Superblocks, it's because the e-commerce. It's the e-commerce, the new way of, the new lifestyle, that people are buying more from Amazon, all these kind of platforms. So I think that the Superblocks with these kind of initiatives, they can be a way to come back in some kind of business. No? It can come back because at the end of the day, the typical smaller store, they can be a change to help with this. No? Sometimes the solutions they come more from they can help the design of the urban spaces. Sometimes the solutions maybe they come even from the perspective of the business. No? For instance, some initiatives are thinking more to like all these smaller stores. They can be in a platform, and as a user, citizens, instead of going to the big platforms, you can go to a local platform, and they can bring you your food, what you're asking for. It's more like, I think the solutions, I think the urban perspective, they can help, but the big solutions, they come from, they change the business model of these stores. I mean, to be integrating more to the needs of the people, because it's how I perceive, at least thinking in terms of Barcelona, the way they can solve all these small business. Otherwise, it will be very difficult, honestly. Even you can do a very nice areas, pedestrian, people can walk. At the end of the day, the lifestyle of the people, it's more to go to these platforms, ask for something, they deliver at home, so they need to think more this business in this way.
And nowadays, Seoul has over 12 big mega city mega project. And if Seoul Metropolitan lead the project, then every project will be similar, as you mentioned. It depends on no matter where you are located, bio, hub, and IT, and etc. And that's why it's important the role of Microsoft. And if the districts began to make not only the citizens but also in surrounding area, the local government districts know better than Seoul Metropolitan government. They can try to make the identity of local area, because in Seoul we have 25, and we have a semi-industry zone, we have a cultural and university zone, we have normal regions. We have nowadays, luckily, we have various character and local heritage, and to preserve, to develop the local heritage, the main role is local districts. But still now, the Seoul Metropolitan government has authority, and that's why to develop the locality, local identity, then is the development of districts is important, and of course we need more time. Yeah.
I think that's all very useful feedback, because as you know, in Singapore we tender out the land, it goes to the highest bidder, and because the highest bidder has to regain that income, they generally have to charge high rental. So it's a bit difficult for the local shops or the mom and pop shops to survive. Hence this question, because as you build more microsols, as you build more urbanized with more spaces, street closures, etc., this is going to happen. And so very interesting viewpoints from both of you. Thank you very much. Now my last question before I open it up to the floor. Inhee, and of course over to Sergi. So both your cities have plenty of urban campuses. And just in the morning I was talking to a young person. She was very happy in Singapore to have gone to school at the School of the Arts and then gone on to SMU in the Bras Basah district. She says, I love Bras Basah because it's so urban, etc. So I think in both your cities you have a lot of urban campuses, but you also have suburban campuses. So like in Singapore, NUS is quite far out. NTU is even further out. So, but in cases like UCLA, for example, Los Angeles, UCLA is there, but at the base of UCLA, there's Westwood Village. It's a little commercial village where everybody comes, the students come together, the community comes together, the professors come together. In Harvard Square, for example, urbanized university, everybody comes to Harvard Square to meet. So in your conceptualization of university city, which you mentioned, and also maybe a question to Sergi, how are you going to encourage that mix? And any advice for us, how we can make NUS and NTU university cities with that same idea that you have mentioned for Seoul?
I think we should learn from Singapore University City. And in case of Seoul, we have it is more difficult if you take 3 professors from Singapore to Seoul instead of the 3 peaks from Singapore to. Means it's very difficult to cooperate with a university professor. Yeah? It's very close society, and that's why 2020, I think, 20 years ago, we began the campus town project. In Seoul, we have the rigid wall in fence, and to demolish the wall, and we try to cooperate between university and surrounding area. Successful, almost all of the university participated in, and because of the, instead of the wall, we prepared the green area and open spaces. And the citizens in surrounding area were satisfied, and students also. And second step, 2018, the Seoul government began to improve the startup all over the cities. And the students graduate, they become at least 4 years long to make a startup company. And that is, we have 6 or 7 years long, and now at least it is more easier than before. We can cooperate with the professor, we can cooperate with the students, and students learn how they can fail. But after failure, but they can become again startup from the subvention from the Seoul government. Of course, not lifelong, maybe 4 or 6 years long. And I think that is a good signal, starting point for university. And luckily, the university located in periphery area with a residential area. And I hope they create a new job and new startup and entrepreneur. And they make, and each city, the university, culture-oriented, music-oriented, IT-oriented, they have their own character connected with the locality. Then maybe we have a more diversity character in a city with the campus potential.
Yeah. Thank you, Inhee. Over to you, Sergi.
Yes, here in Barcelona, we have the urban universities and outside, and you see a huge difference. No? The urban, well, the students go to the class and leave. No, there is no life. It's difficult. No, and when you go to the outside, it's more life. No, it's a common spaces. There are more activities. The students came more together. No. This is recording. Well, I will talk about many universities, so maybe we can stop the recording about the design, because I'm the campus at UPC in the north, and the design is terrible. Really, it's like sorry, you can stop the recording. It's terrible. I mean, it's like factory who conceived. There was like a factory. They provide titles to the students, no, like blocks. Even they are the blocks. The design reminds you of factory of the 19th century. So when you go as a student, you go to the class and you leave, no? Or to the library. In my case, was all day living in the library, so it was like the dynamics, no? And then sometimes they have the idea to use some common spaces to create something, no? To redesign the space, and then you see it's a lot of life then. When you put some things like the people can be for tables sometimes, small tables, things the people, they fill the space. And that's when you can create more even community, university community, it's important, no? So. And you create, this is something I think we have to rethinking about when you have urban universities, to create some kind of common space to have, otherwise the students that don't have life in the university. Another concept to explore in urban, and you point out, I think it's very interesting, is thinking more in terms of innovation clusters, or districts innovation. So you have the advantage when you are in a urban space that you can put together technological companies, some institution, university. In fact, the original idea in the 22 Road district in Barcelona is this idea. Locally, it's not so many universities, but this is the idea to put a space or district common around the new technologies topic. But these things like these lessons is something. It's a space for improving, from our experience.
Thank you both Inhee and Sergi for sharing very frankly, I think, about your cities and your plans and going forward, the issues that you're faced with. I'd like to open it up to the floor now. We have enough time for questions from the floor, and there are illustrious personalities in the audience. I see you here. Please do contribute to this discussion and learning and sharing of knowledge with questions. I'm going to arrow questions, but of course, Limin has a question. Next question I'd like to arrow is Tan Sinin from URA, and then over there, the person in black as well. So maybe, sorry, Limin, you've got to walk to the mic, if you don't mind. Remember, shortage of mics.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to our old friends and collaborators Inhee and Sergi for a very, very enlightening lecture. I have two questions, one for Inhee and one for Sergi. I'm very honored that you first unveiled the 50 souls plan at the CLC lecture, so it's a milestone and a landmark announcement, so thank you for that. And I have a question about the new micro-souls. I guess you would be thinking of some kind of self-governance involving maybe the residents of each micro-soul having some say in how the micro-soul will be governed. So I'm just wondering if you think that issues of NIMBYism would come up, like, I don't want this facility in my micro-soul, please put it somewhere else. And the second part of the question about the micro-soul is that they are very interesting, but they are like cells. I'm just wondering what happens at the seams where one cell transits to another, like, how do you think of that connection? And then for Sergi, thanks for sharing again about the Superblocks and the impacts it has had. I'm curious how long, because you show us this chart of the impacts, right? How long after the project was implemented did you take the metrics so that we can understand, like the period that you feel that it needs before you should measure? And the second part is, are you measuring the impact of the outer part of the Superblocks? And if you can share some of the impacts with us, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, that's 4 questions from Lee Min. But maybe we let Inhee start first.
The presentation has not finished the result, and it is an ongoing project and not shared with all districts. And that's why we need more conversation and analysis. At least the role of districts, I think that in the future, we have 2 keywords, global and districts, local. The so much of government afraid because the government cannot believe the quality of the districts. That is a problem. But I have experience in the last 15 years. Of course, 10 years ago, it was really not effective. But nowadays, the quality of them is really improved. And in 2040 Seoul Metro, for example, we have at least 30% of the contents came from the local districts. It was impossible in 10 years ago. I think that is the result of 2040. And that's why I want to really cooperate with the districts. And some districts are really now ready to cooperate with it. And then your question may be, next time, if I have experience, then I will try to give you the answer. And second point, the cell. Of course, that is an ideological idea. 1 cell and 5, 10 microsoul. Depends on it. It moved. It changed, and that's why we need a more powerful districts who can arrange it, and that is a flexible. The Microsoft is maybe 10 or 20, and also we have 3 sort of the Microsoft. 1 mega center with 10 surrounding, or 2 or 3 different main measures, or like Yongsan is a global city hub. They have a lot of big size, and that can be changed. And that is the also that is also the ideas, and in ongoing project we can figure out how can we manage it.
And over to Sergi. Thank you, Inhee. Yes. A very data analytical, scientific question from Lee Min for you.
Yes, no, because sorry, it's because the comment they make me think about, maybe you're thinking more in terms of a multi-hierarchy of centers, no, based on the activity, no? So multi-center, okay, so just to, no, thanks. So regarding the data, one thing is what they are doing, what the thing is what I think they should be done, no? I think if it's correct, no? I mean, their impacts will be immediately. So, for instance, some measures were already finished in the 23. They're tracking now the results, so it's 1 year. So noise, traffic, this is immediate. Some impact they should measure in a period of 5 years. For instance, the business So I think it depends on the epoch. I mean, I think again, no, you see the traffic now, I mean, in 5 years will not be so much surprises, and they should pretty the same. But then others will take some time. So I think the ex-post analysis should be in 5 years period, minimum. The another thing is very interesting when you point out is what happens outside the macro blocks, because you need to measure, because otherwise you can confuse the results. I mean, so many things can happen are related, for instance, the business, no? Because we're talking before about the effects of the e-commerce in the local business. Maybe we can measure some changes in the macro blocks, but it's not a consequence of the macro block, it's a consequence of a general trend of the e-commerce. So also you need to measure some, for instance, the traffic node, but on others we need to measure outside to make sure that what the data you're getting is real, the effects, or it's the direct consequence of the macro blocks. This is important. In some impacts will be really challenging. So hopefully soon we'll see the results. Hopefully will be the case how a picture should be done.
Thank you very much, Sergi and Inhee. I just wanted CENIT up there to give a little plug, because as Inhee mentioned, URA is now doing an exhibition, draft master plan exhibition on the future polycentric commercial centers. And I do observe some similarity between what Seoul is talking about 50 microsols and also what the Singapore plan is also proposing. So maybe I just invite CENIT also to give a small plug and just an update about the plans that URA is proposing as part of the draft master plan.
Don't mind if I ask questions.
Well, you can give a plug and ask a question in the meantime.
We'll come to the exhibition. This is just
No, please say it to everybody, because the exhibition is now ongoing, just launched.
Well, basically, the exhibition is about the regionalization as well as the decentralization of the city, right? We have this idea of polycentric, and the idea is obviously we want to bring jobs closer to home, and there are different typologies of doing that. Of course, for the longest time, we have a whole hierarchy of different commercial centers. We call them regional centers, sub-regional centers, and what have you. But actually, I find that quite interesting, because we do struggle to define exactly what these are in terms of whether they should be self-contained. So actually, my question to Dr. Inhee is this. There are two parts to my question. One is a macro one. You talk about 100-year plan for Seoul. In Singapore, we used to have a concept plan. Now we call it the long-term plan. That is a 50-year plan. And 50 years seems to be a very long time from now. And you roll your eyes and say, well, sure, you know exactly what 50 years is going to be like. I'm just wondering, for a 100-year plan, how do you take into account changes that will take place certainly in 100 years' time? Technology will change, for instance. Maybe social expectations and needs will also change. So I'm just wondering, in formulating a 100-year plan, do you take into account some of these changes? How do you do that? Probably a lot of guesswork, I imagine. So that's one question. The other question is regards to microsols. You're going to have 50 microsols, right? And you talk about this being very accessible and it should be self-contained. And I was looking at some of the diagrams you showed in your presentation, and many of those microsols are going to be very high intensity anyway. They're three-dimensional and integrated developments, for instance. My question is, and this is a question we ask ourselves in Singapore as well, are we able to provide enough jobs in each microsol to be self-contained? Because I imagine if these are the jobs are likely to be, since they are integrated with housing, it's likely to be very clean jobs, right? They won't be pollutive jobs. So, but then, with so many microzones, so many microsols, similarly for us, so many polycenters, are we able to find enough jobs that are clean, that can coexist with residential in these areas? I think it's quite difficult for us, but I'm just wondering what's your experience in Seoul? Thanks.
That was two questions from CENIT.
So the first question, of course, that was the critique in the last 10 months. And when I have a presentation relating with the government or professional, and I was so 100 times criticized. You don't know what happening tomorrow, and technological. I'm my own plan. I'm not technological and futuristic, and it's really. Compare also the 2017 concept plan in Singapore. This is very visible, and direction is clear. And 100-year plan is symbolic, and we should start to think for the future in climate change, in demographic change. There is a really serious changing factor, but the normal citizen, the student, doesn't take care of this one. And that's why the 100-year plan is motivation to discuss, to think about the future. That is our ideas. And I think 2 months ago, we have a contest with the students. And the students participated in the contest for the 100-year plan. They gave us the 5 minutes YouTube, what they think for the future. And then after that, the students gave us the feedback. They didn't know about the future, but they experienced how important to think for the future and how important the personal and to think together with the society. I think that is a goal of 100-year plan, and not the Imagine plan for the picture. And
그럼 충분하게 중요한 직업들을 모두에게 다 볼 수 있을지 그거에 대해서 어떻게 대응을 할 건지 직업적인 부분에 대해서.
The second question, I cannot guarantee it. We just give opportunity, potential for different micro Seuls, and at least we want to give us some place, city core that makes jobs. Luckily, in 2009 or 10, 15 years ago, at that time, we tried to make a polycentric. And at that time, we have just 7 or 8 city centers. But at that time, we tried to give up over 30 city cores. It was not easy. But in the last 15 years, we have monitored, and the Madam government and districts tried to make some city core, development city core. And nowadays, over 30 big or small size city centers developed as a semi-self-sufficient core. And of course, some jobs is the same, but some different, dependent on the location. And I think I am very optimistic if we try to give us some, at least special condition for 50 city center. Then the next task, the districts and the citizen should try to improve it. Of course, the Seoul Metro government and the professional should serve such environment. I don't know whether it is enough to your question. Yeah,
well, I think your answer is an optimistic answer. So thank you very much. Yes. So over to Sergi, maybe from the Barcelona point.
When you were talking about the 50, 100, at the end, doesn't matter it's 50 or 100. This is a number. At the end is, if you ask me for 100 or 50, in my mind I put everything in black, in white, a white paper, and I start drawing. And when I do this exercise, I'm thinking about the big project, they transform really the territory. Often, in short-term projects, they limit it a lot. If I think to transform Barcelona, I will not think in Barcelona, I was thinking the metropolitan area of Barcelona. I was starting thinking about in the big projects that if we want to execute these big projects, maybe they take 30 years. When they think in the big projects, they change the city, or the metropolitan scale, they need 30 years, sometimes. So this is what the important this exercise. Later we can put 100, 50, doesn't matter. It's long term. No, it's like keep your mind open and then start from zero. What you will do it, and this is when they come the big project. They transform everything.
And I think just to set the context, I think optimism is always positive. I think in Singapore we're always concerned of oversupply, and the concern as painted out in some of the other CBDs or commercial districts of the world, whereby they're hollowing out, there's high vacancy rates, and now cities are stuck with office buildings that they are empty. I think we read of 20% to 25% vacancy rate in some CBDs. And I guess hence that's CENIT's question about How do you match demand, supply going forward? But then on the other hand, I'd like to also cite the example of Sydney, whereby they are projecting at this moment a demand for office. So they are building a lot of office space, new office space to cater for the future, with a sense of optimism for the future, that this would be the growth of the CBD. So with that in mind, I saw a young man by the name of, I think, John Ting, in black. I was thinking that was somebody less than 35, but John, you're just 36, so your question, please. And after this, I know we are coming close, but I would really like one question from somebody in the audience who's less than 35, because this is going to be your future, and we should think about it and discuss it, and we'd like to hear your views. So John, 36-year-old John.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I'm 36 plus, so almost there. First of all, I'm not a planner, so my question could be quite innocent. Huh? So my mind is wondering, from your research, what are the lessons that you think we can investigate a bit deeper, adopt them here? Because I have the same problem with CENIT, because our cultural history, our structural plan is so different, you know. So I'm just struggling how to translate some of your lessons that you learn into this small place. And remember, you come from megapolis. We are one little dot. If we make a mistake, everybody feels it. In your case, you can make a lot of mistakes in different places, and most people may not even know about it. Thank you.
So maybe, Sergi, you try and answer the question, and Inhee.
Well, in our case, maybe thinking about the Superblocks, no? I think it's important to, well, in this case, no, I think just, for instance, when I explained the Superblock, I came to the history of the city, no? So, I was a very, as a consequence of the city and the current problems, was some kind of logical, no? I think this is the same exercise we need to do here. I mean, Superblock is not having just a square when we see a grid structure and put it there. No, it's thinking about, well, where we have problems, where we can see solution, in which context, no, and what we want. No, I think in fact, the methodology we're working with the Center for Livable Cities, they try to give solutions to that. No, to okay, what we want to achieve. We want to improve health. We want to improve environmental issues, and based on that, what is the best scenario? No, so this is why. At the end, we try to do this research to give us this kind of methodological framework to help this decision. No? But again, it's a very interesting point. We need to go to the local situations. No? This is the key element.
Over to you, Inhee.
Yeah. I don't know whether I have a position to give advice in Singapore, but I think the difference between Seoul and Singapore, Singapore has more perfect system and a little bit rigid, and so is more flexible. And I think you don't need to have you're afraid about the failure, because you have a perfect system, you have a lot of experiences, and you have a network, and that's why more flexible and more challenging is that task in compared to Seoul. In Seoul, we are too flexible, and we have very risky if we try to make some new challenges. That is different, and that's why don't need to afraid the future, don't need afraid to challenge it compared to Seoul. You have a perfect system. You need more flexible and more challenging. That could be my, yeah.
Interesting advice, Inhee. Thank you very much. Okay, just for my request for the audience. Sorry, are you under 35?
Don't be ageist.
I do hope for one question, please, from someone who is under 35.
So may I pose a question I've been wanting to for a while, but you've been prompting others. All right. So my name is Luke. I'm a food systems and urban futurist. I'm also on one of the town councils of one of our districts. So my quick question, or rather observation, is that, okay, so for Seoul, right, one thing you haven't addressed in your considerations is demography. I hear your birth rate's worse than ours. You know, so how are you planning for demography in your 100-year plan? Is there some decantment one way or or the other between Seoul and the periphery. For Barcelona, I wonder if other considerations that I'm aware of, like your challenge of over-tourism. You mentioned also environmental strains like limited water budget. And also, I guess, to throw into the mix, I think your region is also pushing for more autonomy, right? So how have some of these considerations informed your plans or not? Thank you.
According to a statistic, the population of Seoul, registered population, decreased under 2 million in 70 years. Maybe some people criticize, maybe Seoul will be disappeared. Because of the birth rate of Seoul is the bottom. Yeah, 0.59. It's incredible. 0.59. And we don't have any future optimism. No need to have experience. That's why I presented here. What is the citizen of Seoul? No more registered citizen, but also we have 8 million population who live outside of Seoul. They also belong to Seoul Melbourne government, and also the global citizens, visitors and tourism, etc. And that's why we need, until now, we have very rigid and closed populations policies. From now on, open-minded, inclusive. At least you, as a visitor, if you stay one day in Seoul, you should be concerned as a Seoul citizen. And we should give us some residential opportunity and job and recreational. That is the the alternative against the population's decreasing issues. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Inhee. I hope to then act in a K-drama very soon. Over to you, Sergi.
Regarding, for instance, you talk about the over-tourism, or is the perception, that the city sometimes it's a little bit overwhelmed about that, or it's a lot of movements now at this, When you see the macro blocks are more in the residential areas, the areas that's not so crowded in terms of tourists, just we start in that areas, because I feel they can be more, the citizens, they can be more benefit for that, Of course, trying to see solutions to another area with more tourists. I think will be in a further expansion, regarding we're talking about the limited, how we consider here, the key element is the mobility. I mean, one of the contradictions we have, no contradiction what they said, one of the key issues or the barriers is the city halls goes in one direction, especially with the previous government, Let's do the Superblocks. And when you ask what happens with mobility, no, it's not our issue. So this is something at metropolitan scale, And the metropolitan scale, when you're thinking about the big solutions, it's, well, the bus system is working well, but we have a commuter train that they move massive people with a lot of issues. It's a lot of issues. It's a lot of complaints because we don't invest enough in maintenance. We don't invest enough in increasing the capacity. The population is growing in the metropolitan area, and now we realize that we have to put a lot of money to this system, but in addition, this system then needs a while also, because when we're thinking, for instance, to improve the capacity of the commuter rail, we're talking about increasing the capacity of some tunnels inside under Barcelona. So it's a big investment. They have a lot of effects. So now we're moving a scenario that for some years we'll still have some limited capacity to reduce the traffic. So this is one of the issues we're facing now, the mobility at the metropolitan scale.
Thank you for the input. So I think what you're both trying to say is, beyond the official boundaries of Seoul and Barcelona, actually that metropolitan catchment and the greater catchment of Catalonia, Spain, South Republic of Korea, actually is the one that you think is probably going to fuel the growth of your cities for the future, and hence, that's why your projections of the future. And we have the last question. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Joshua Vargas from the Philippines. I am a researcher at, I'm a researcher at Future Cities Laboratory Singapore, and I'm also co-founder of the Young Urbanists of Southeast Asia. Dr. Inhee, when I saw the microsoil concept, I thought it was a very fascinating and positive development. As a GIS researcher, I found the hexagon cells very interesting. My question is, what is the planned approach for communicating the microsoil concept with citizens? Is it a more utilitarian kind of concept in the background, or is there an intention to give these areas their own identity? and how might that affect how urban planners communicate with citizens? And Dr. Sergi, I'm also interested in similar experiences when superblocks were starting out. How did the term superblock or super area get received by citizens? Was it alienating at first, or did it help explain the concept to people before the pilot project started bearing fruit? Thank you.
Luckily, 2013, when we finished the 2030 master plan, at that time, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we proposed the neighborhood, we proposed to make a master plan for neighborhood units. And at that time, we divided Seoul 116 neighborhood units, and each unit was worked with the citizen directly in districts level. And that's why the citizen had a lot of experience to make plan for themselves. And that's why they are welcomed to revise the plan. And that's why I think the community participation and they can change the area, that is no problem. And our approach is, if citizens propose, then I think that is as good, and then we try to change it. But if not, then we will try to discuss with them, citizen, and some proposal could be not realistic, and then we should give an alternative, or we discuss about that. I think that is the ongoing process. Yeah, thank you.
No, regarding the superblocks, here at the beginning I said it's very important city engagement, no? To explain the people, the pilot cases. No? Sometimes to start with the small solutions. For instance, so many streets before in the schools, they cut it. No? Something important also of our culture, no? Before we're talking about the local entities, things, no? Our culture is very oriented to the streets, to have life on the streets. No? When you're talking the old people, when before the cars, no? What was the life in the old times before cars? The old people explain to you, know, the streets, the kids were constantly on the streets, no? So it's something like, it makes sense for us when you do the superblocks, suddenly people are on the streets. The weather, of course, it's a big factor, but it's in our culture. No? So this helps to create community. So once you have this going back, it's almost impossible. No? So again, first, it's city engagement, explain, no, how we'll do it, to help people, to encourage people to give ideas how to use this space, what to put. No? But again, also it's part of, it's natural of our culture to be on the streets and to use the streets in such a way.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, both Sergi, Inhee, for giving your views from two very different cities. I think you are united with the optimism and in implementation, that great vision. You have shown us that you can bounce back and reinvent and reimagine your plans and adapt them to the feedback of both City Hall officials, the community needs, and what you think is for the good of your cities and your people. So here we are. I think please join your hands to thank our two guests for really telling us how we can make cities better for all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.